Hello everyone, this is Helloangel.design. Today we are making this beautiful dress step-by-step tutorial. It's easy to make and I'm going to guide you how you can achieve yours. I add the lace right here and add the lace at the waistline, so the lace is stitched to this point. It is not all around, and you can use it to make a belt at the back. You can also use any lace of your choice to design your dress. The back is button closure. Please support us by subscribing, like and share this video with your friends and loved ones, and please keep liking the video so that we can get more traction on YouTube. And let's jump right to this tutorial. First thing that you're going to do, you grab your basic pattern paper. This is my basic pattern paper for 2 to 3 years. My pattern paper already include 1 centimeter seam allowance. For the center back, I add 3 centimeter seam allowance. This is the back pattern and this is the front. And I'm using this African wax print. You can use any print of your choice. And I'm also using this lace to design the dress. So what I'm going to do, I am going to pin my pattern paper on my fabric and we cut it out. I have pinned my front and back pattern paper on my fabric. So what I'm going to do, I am going to take my scissors and cut it out. Before you cut it out, remember the front pattern paper is always on fold. So this side of my fabric is folded. In the back pattern, you're going to cut 2 pieces. You can see the way I place my pattern, so I will just go ahead and cut it out. The next thing that we are going to do, we are going to cut out our ruffle sleeve. My fabric is folded into 2 like this. You can see it's folded on this side while the rest side are raw edges. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to place my measuring tape like this. I'm going to take a measurement of 20 centimeter or 8 inch. So I will measure it down 20 centimeter or 8 inch. I have taken the measurement from the folded side 20 centimeter or 8 inch, and I'm taking my ruler to connect the mark together. Once you have connected the mark together, the next thing that we have to do, we are going to decide the length of our sleeve. So I'm going to place my measuring tape like this. I'm going to take a measurement of 10 centimeter or 4 inch, including seam allowance. So 10 centimeter or 4 inches right here. Once you take that measurement, also take your ruler and connect the mark together. I have connected the mark together. What I'm going to do, I am going to take my scissors and cut it out. Once you cut it out, use the fabric that you cut out to cut out the second ruffle sleeve. I have cut out the sleeve and the lining. I'm using the same fabric to line the sleeve. And this is my top dress and the lining. For the skirt, I'm not going to line in the skirt. I am going to tell you the length of my skirt. What you are going to do, you place your measuring tape like this. The length of my skirt is 38 centimeter or 15 inch. Width of your skirt, so you place your measuring tape like this. Width of my skirt is 73 centimeter or 28.75. So when you are taking the measurement, make sure that you fold your fabric into 2. My fabric is folded into 2 on this side, while the rest side are raw edges. That means you're going to take the total width of 73 centimeter or 28.75 inch. That will be the total width of your skirt. So what we are going to do, we are going to put the dress together. First thing that you have to do, you open your made fabric. This is the front of my made fabric. For the shoulder seam, we are going to take a measurement and we are going to take the middle part of the shoulder. So I'll place my measuring tape like this and I will fold it into 2 like this, and I will mark the center of the shoulder like this. And I will repeat the same process on this other side. Place my measuring tape like this, fold it into 2. And this is the center point of my shoulder. Once you take that measurement, you're going to repeat the same process at the waistline. So this is the center point of my waistline, and then you place your measuring tape like this, fold it into two so that you can mark the middle part or the center point of your fabric. Repeat the same process on this other side. I have taken the measurement. This is how it is. Once you have done that, what you are going to do, you pick your lace. You can use lace, you can use anything to design your top dress. So I will place it like this from the center right here. You see the way I place my lace, and I will twist it over, and I will secure the lace in place like this with my pin. Next thing, you're going to repeat the same process on this other side. You pick your lace. This is the center point of the shoulder seam, and then you move your lace like this. This is the other center point of the waistline. You move it like this, and you secure them with a pin. I have secured the both lace together. This is how it is. What you are going to do, take it to your sewing machine and stitch the lace together. Like this, you're going to stitch on both sides of the lace. Once you have done that, the next thing that you have to do, you take the back top dress, you just put the shoulder seam of the top dress together like this. Put them together, make sure that both front fabric are facing each other. You are going to stitch the shoulder seam together. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. Before you stitch the shoulder seam together, make sure that you stitch your lace first before stitching the shoulder seam of your top dress together. Once you have done with that, you take your lining. You're going to repeat the same process. Open the front of your lining, put the both shoulder seam of your lining together. We are going to stitch the shoulder seam together. So take it to your sewing machine, stitch the shoulder seam with your seam allowance. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to cover the sleeve. So what you are going to do, you take your armhole curve, place it like this at the sleeve. You can see the way I place it. You are going to take your marker or your chalk. You just go ahead and connect them together like this. Once you have done that, what you are going to do, take your scissors and cut it out. Once you have cut it out, take this pattern that you have cut out. Use this pattern to cut out the rest of your sleeve fabric. You place it like this. You just go ahead and cut them out. Once you have done that, you take your sleeve and the front of my sleeve. I'm going to put the both front fabric together. I'll put them together like this. I'm going to stitch the bottom edge of my sleeve. Take it to your sewing machine and stitch it with your seam allowance. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. And also repeat the same process with the second sleeve. Once you have stitched your sleeve together, turn it inside out, take it to an ironing board and give it a good press. And also stitch a gather stitch thread at the top edge of your sleeve. I have stitched my top dress together. This is how it is once you have stitched your top dress together. And I take it to my ironing board. I press the seam apart and I repeat the same thing with the lining. I press the seam apart. I have also stitched my sleeve all around and I stitch a gather stitch thread at the top edge of my sleeve. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to gather our sleeve at the armhole of this dressmaking. So what you are going to do, you pick your measuring tape, you place it at the side seam of your armhole. You measure inside 1.5 centimeter. If you're using inches, you can measure half an inch. And you place it on this other side. You're going to take a measurement of 1.5 centimeter. If you're using inches, you can measure half an inch. Once you take that measurement, also repeat the same process on this side of the armhole. Then you pick your sleeve. So this is my sleeve. You fold it into two and you take your scissors to knot the center point of the sleeve. What you are going to do, you are going to place that center point that you notch, place it at the shoulder seam of your top dress. Make sure that both front fabric are facing each other. We are going to gather the ruffle sleeve at the armhole of our dress making. And you also repeat the same process on this other side. I have gathered my sleeve around the armhole of my top dress. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and stitch my sleeve on the top dress. So when I'm stitching, it's not up to my seam allowance. Once I am done stitching, I will remove the gather stitch thread. I have top stitched the both sleeve together. This is how it is. The next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to pick my lining. I'm going to put the both front fabric together. Front lining, front top dress facing each other. What you are going to do, you are going to pin around the both armhole, neckline, and at the center back. Once you have done pinning, take it to your sewing machine, stitch around the both armhole, neckline, and at the center back. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. Once you have done stitching, trim a little bit out from the seam allowance, turn it inside out, take it to an ironing board and give it a good press. I have stitched around the neckline, the both armhole, and the center back. This is how it look. It look really beautiful. The next thing that you have to do, you are going to put the side seam of the top together. All you have to do, pick your top dress like this, both lining facing each other, male fabric facing each other. You take it to your sewing machine and stitch the side seam with your seam allowance. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. And then you come down to the other side, you repeat the same thing, stitch it with your seam allowance. My seam allowance is 1 centimeter. Once you have done that, you take your skirt to your sewing machine. You are going to stitch a gather stitch thread at the top edge of your skirt. I have stitched the side seam of my top dress. I turn it inside out, take it to my ironing board and give it a good press. This is how it is once you have done that. And this is my skirt. I have also stitched a gather stitch thread at the top edge of my skirt. So what you are going to do, you take the center back of your skirt, you fold inside 1 centimeter and then you fold it again 2 centimeter. This will be our buttonhole or snap closure. Make sure to also repeat the same process on this other side. You fold inside 1 centimeter and then you fold it again 2 centimeter. What you are going to do, you take it to your sewing machine, you top stitch all the way down, and then you come down to this other side, you top stitch all the way down. I have stitched it together. This is how it is once you have stitched the center back of your skirt. This is how it will look. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to gather the skirt at the waistline of our top dress. Go ahead and gather your skirt. I have gathered my skirt at the waistline of my top dress. The next thing that you have to do, take it to your sewing machine and top stitch. My seam allowance is 1.3 centimeter or half an inch. Once I am done stitching, I will remove the gather stitch thread, take it to my overlocker, overlock the raw edges, or use zigzag to overlock the raw edges. I have stitched my skirt at the waistline of my top dress. This is how it is once you have done that. I take it to my overlocker. I just overlock the raw edges. If you don't have overlocker, you can always use zigzag to overlock the raw edges. The next thing that we have to do, we are going to attach this lace at the waistline of our dress making. What we are going to do, this is the center crease, so you place it at the center crease of your dressmaking. So this is the center crease of my dressmaking right here. I will use a pin to secure that. Once you use a pin to secure that, so what you are going to do, you are going to pin into the end where this first lace ended. You pin all the way to the end right there. I will take my pin to secure that. And then you come down to the other side. This is where our shoulder lace ended, so you going to secure that as well. Once you have secured it together, what you are going to do, take it to your sewing machine, stitch it all the way down, and you come down to the waistline, you stitch it all the way down. That means you're stitching the both side of the lace. Once you have done that, you use the opportunity to hem your dress. Fold inside 1.3 centimeter or half an inch. Fold it again 1.3 centimeter or half an inch. You go ahead and top stitch all around. Once you have done with that, you use the opportunity to fix your snap closure or your button hole at the center back. I have stitched it together. This is how it is, and I also use the opportunity to stitch all around the waistline, and I've also hemmed my dress all around. This is how it looks. This is the final look of my dress. Thank you all so much for watching. Remember to subscribe and like the video, share the video with your friends and loved ones, and have a wonderful day. Bye.